Last couple of weeks, we've been talking about workers' compensation in our Know Your Rights segments with Catherine Stone from Barbas Law. Well, she's back with more on the actual payment portion if you are missing time from work, which obviously this is like the key point people want to know about.
So in the last couple of segments, we talked about, okay, when do you qualify? In certain instances, you know, what we have to do to get you established into the workers' comp system. And then obviously, we've talked previously in the far past about how the medical really controls whether or not workers' comp is going to have to pay you. And recently, I had I like to tell stories. I had a client come to me who had been out of work for about 2 years, off and on, with the medical restrictions. Sometimes he was totally off work, which meant he would be entitled to temporary total disability benefits. That's calculated using your average weekly wage. And this is where my client had a question. Your average weekly wage is calculated using the 13 weeks prior to your date of the accident, and it does not include the week leading up to your accident. That is a set number. Okay. That number will only change if your employer was providing health insurance and then they ultimately stopped providing health insurance, and then you would get a credit towards what they were contributing to your health insurance. Okay. So that's really the only instance in which once your average weekly wage is established, it could ever get changed. Well, we've rocked along 2 years. He's been light duty, gone back to work.
How do you base that 13 weeks?
Well, the 13 weeks is already set in stone. So they have what's called a wage statement that your employer has to fill out with your payroll records. And remember, that's the 13 weeks prior to your accident.
So whether you're working or not.
Well, correct. So your AWW may go down, what we call AWW, if you didn't work a lot those 13 weeks leading up. Let's say you went on vacation and you didn't have time, you know, and you just took it unpaid. Right. That's going to hurt your average weekly wage. But so he's gone 2 years now. He's still with the employer. They've given him raises throughout the time period that he's been treating. He's now making about $4 more than he was per hour at the time of the accident. He's back working almost full time. And when he's light duty, he might have his hours knocked down. But if you're back light duty and your employer's accommodating your restrictions, you don't get to utilize the average weekly wage of what would be the current period. We still go back to the 2011.
Oh, yes.
So that's a big question a lot of clients have trouble coming to grips with is, yeah, but my employer's paying me more now. Right. Now I'm out of work. Why aren't I being paid what I'm losing out of work now versus what I was losing 2 years ago?
Still that date of the accident.
Still the date of the accident that they use. And so that becomes a big issue. And so that's why making sure your attorney knows whether you had any concurrent earnings from another employer or a part-time employer, whether or not your health insurance has expired. I mean, sometimes I'll go and clients will be like, oh yeah, by the way, my health insurance stopped 3 months ago. Okay, well, I need to know that so that I can then request an adjustment to your average weekly wage.
So it is possible to have some adjustment made
Correct.
there. Okay.
Yes.
Which I think is the key, but the most important part is you have to have Catherine on your side to be able to make that adjustment, right?
Right, and keeping us informed of what's going on, letting us know in the very beginning. Those are all the questions we ask in the very beginning, because that's one of the first things I do is I want to check that average weekly wage, make sure we have that right, because that's going to be your average weekly wage forever in your case.
Well, thank you for coming on. I know this affects a lot of people, and it's great that you inform them. And if you have even more questions about this or anything that we can discuss in our Know Your Rights segment, well, just be sure to give them a call, 1-800-BARBAS-LAW, or go to barbaslaw.com/knowyourrights.